Hello and welcome to the F1 News Zone, the show round up all the biggest stories in Formula 1 right now. We are currently in the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix weekend, so here are the biggest stories in Imola. This week, has McLaren's secret been revealed? Toto Wolff has expressed faith in Sir Lewis Hamilton finally getting things right at Ferrari before too long, and we review all of the action from qualifying at Imola. If you are watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video description to watch the story that you are most interested in. So, without further ado, let's dive in. McLaren are rather fast right now in the Formula 1 World Championship. That is a masterpiece of understatement. They absolutely wiped the floor with the field at the Miami Grand Prix 2 weeks ago, and it's looking as though they are absolute champions-elect, at least in the Constructors' Championship. In the Drivers' Championship, things are less clear. But how have they got this big advantage when it comes to the pace of their cars? How are they doing it? Well, the leading theory behind it is the fact that apparently they can cool their tyres or keep their tyres at a much cooler temperature while running a lot quicker than the competition. That is why in qualifying, for the most part, they're not absolutely the dominant force. Lest we forget that McLaren has the same amount of pole positions this year as Red Bull. Max Verstappen has had 3 pole positions so far this season in 2025, which is the exact amount that McLaren have with both Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. So over one lap, that car is quick. It is arguably the quickest, but it is not absolutely clear of the rest of the field like you may actually think, going off of how fast they are over a race distance. And that is the key really when it comes to their pace, the fact that their long runs are so fast compared to the rest of the field. Like I said, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, they won the Miami Grand Prix by about 30 seconds. Look how quick they were in Australia before the safety car came out and bunched the field back up. Once those guys got ahead of Max Verstappen about halfway through the race, they opened up like a 15-second gap in about 10 seconds. They are absolutely electric over a long stint. Now, obviously, let's just talk about the tyres very quickly. So, when it comes to the tyres with Pirelli, they are designed to degrade. They are designed to go off in terms of their performance. If you push too hard too soon, you've ruined your tyres. They go off the cliff, so to speak, when it comes to the performance of them overall. And that is what the other 9 teams are finding. But McLaren somehow can keep their tyres in what is called the operating window for a much longer period of time. Now, Red Bull claim to have found what is actually going on here. They claim to have used thermal imaging cameras at Miami or some other races recently anyway. And unlike the other teams, their brakes, the McLaren brakes, when they change the tyres and the brakes are exposed, are significantly cooler. Red Bull claim, we yet to see any proof of this, but Red Bull claim there are cold spots on the brakes. Now, when I say cold spots, I am not talking about freezing cold. I'm just talking about the coldness of the brakes compared to what they normally would be. Formula 1 brakes are hundreds of degrees hot. They are absolutely boiling. If you were to touch them, you would burn your hand instantly. It'd be like touching a hot stove. They are designed to work at extremely high temperatures because of the incredible forces that they put through the cars to try and slow them down. But relatively speaking, compared to the other teams, Red Bull claim that McLaren's brakes are significantly cooler. Now, we don't know how they are doing this. Now, Red Bull, again, they claim to have a reason for this. They said there was so-called tyre water. There was water within the tyres that was actually keeping these brakes very cool compared to the competition. And now, if McLaren were doing this, that would be illegal. You are not allowed to put anything in your tyres other than air. That is the only thing you can put in them. You cannot inflate them using any kind of other fluid, whether that be a liquid or a gas. That is prevented in the regulations. Now, it should also be noted that Oscar Piastri's McLaren was scrutineered after the Miami Grand Prix, and the stewards found no wrongdoing. And McLaren sound pretty confident about there not being any tyre water in there anyway, lest we forget about Zach Brown actually sitting on the pit wall in Miami with a bottle of water that said tyre water on it. So clearly they are taking a bit of a laugh about it. Red Bull thought they found it, but that protest has been thrown out by the stewards. They found no wrongdoing when it comes to this. But the key here is that McLaren have found a way to cool their tyres, to keep them very cool, by doing something with the brakes anyway. Now, how have they done this? Well, it's a secret. We don't actually know at this moment, but the leading theory is that is being explained by people like Ruth Boscombe on the F1 TV coverage right now, is saying that McLaren is using something called a solid state to actually cool the tyres. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's basically like when you put ice cubes into your drink on a hot day to keep it cool. You put something cold into the liquid to make it colder, to actually maintain that lower temperature so it's nicer for you to drink. McLaren are doing something similar to that, but with the tyres. There is something that they are doing with the brakes that is actually allowing them to cool the tyres. Again, we don't know what exactly, we don't know what they've done. It's a heavily guarded secret, and it's not something that is going to be revealed anytime soon. The teams, if they could find out, would undoubtedly copy this. Now, if they are doing this, McLaren, is that legal? Are they allowed to actually cool the tyres by using some sort of solid state cooling method? Well, if they found a way to actually do it, it technically is legal under the regulations. So if a team were to protest this, it would actually get through if that is what they have indeed done. Now, that doesn't mean to say that this will be banned by the Formula One regulators. We've seen this countless times in the past when it comes to significant technical changes, people getting around the regulations, finding what is called a loophole to actually circumnavigate that. Technically, it is legal, but it is not unlike Formula One to when they find out what is going on here to actually close it. Think of the flexi wings, for example. Of course, that is being banned, or at least tightened anyway, I should say, after the Spanish Grand Prix in a few races' time. So it's not unlike Formula One to actually tighten these loopholes to remove the ambiguity there, because when they, I don't know if you guys ever read the Formula One technical directive and all the documents and everything. It's not a very riveting read. It's hundreds upon hundreds of pages long, and there's so many things that these designers, go. Think about Adrian Newey, for example, in his book, which is a fascinating read, How to Build a Car. 100% recommend that. It's one of the best Formula One books out there, full stop. But, he always talks about, the fact that he gets the regulations, he reads them, then he figures out how to get around them. Not break them, how to get around them. Find something that is technically legal, but of course is a loophole to exploit, and therefore you will actually be able to go faster. He did that for years and years and years, and that is why he's so successful. McLaren right now, they've had the flexi wing thing closed, or it will be closed very soon, so they've obviously put some more effort into actually improving other parts of the car, such as the tyres. If they keep the tyres cool over a long stint, they're unstoppable. And we saw that in Miami, and we might well see that at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix this weekend as well, especially since the tyres are very soft. They're doing the C6s for the first time this season, if I'm not mistaken. So those tyres will wear down very quickly for everybody except for probably McLaren. So I'm very interested to see what they've done. Like I said, we don't know exactly what they've done, but that is the leading theory right now. And it technically will probably be legal if that is what they've indeed done. Now, that doesn't mean they won't change the regulations to circumnavigate that, but honestly, when it comes to something like this, if they are going to change the regulations, what they would normally do is wait until the end of the season to do so, especially since we've got a big regulation change coming up anyway in 2026. Red Bull need to find proof of this. The stewards need to find proof of this because they haven't found anything yet. They're obviously doing something, McLaren, and it looks as though it's going to be legal, but I'm fascinated to see what they've actually done because this is a massive performance advantage. We're talking, this is probably half a second, 3/4 of a second, maybe a full second around some of the longer circuits on the calendar. And, the McLaren mechanics, the engineers that have done this are absolute geniuses, and it's really paying dividends for them now. It really, really is. But, guys, let us know what you think about this in the comments below. What do you think McLaren have done when it comes to circumnavigating these regulations? Is it legal? Is it not? What will Formula One do? Will they wait till the end of the season to outlaw this? Will they change the regulations then? Or will they, in fact, of course, do it straight away? Will it be an instant ban? And will McLaren's advantage therefore be thrown out effectively? Not unlike what Red Bull's was around 12 months ago, of course, with their asymmetric brakes. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Is this Toto Wolff buttering up his old friend Lewis Hamilton? Probably still friends, to be fair. I imagine they exchange messages on a certain messaging app that I'm not going to mention because they're pushing that right now with Kimi Antonelli documentary that's on Netflix, I think, something like that. It's WhatsApp, by the way. I'm only just joking, but I imagine they still talk every now and again, and Wolff has come out in the media and publicly praised Hamilton. He said that his magic will see him through at Ferrari. He's not going to struggle for much longer. And in fairness, I probably agree with that, but I think Ferrari are also struggling. Of course, what race is coming up next? The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, the Gran Premiero Emilia Romagna over in Italy, at Imola, the heartland of Ferrari. I mean, Monza's big, obviously, but Imola is their true home race. And the Tifosi, they ain't going to be happy if Ferrari aren't performing. But for me, as bad as it sounds, as long as Hamilton keeps up with Charles Leclerc, as long as he's around the same position, not much between them, he's going to do fine. The car is clearly the problem then, and it's not just the driver. Anyway, let's have a look at what he said here. Full article on the F1Chronicle.com, as always, guys. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has expressed his unwavering belief in Lewis Hamilton's abilities, insisting that the 7-time world champion's magic is still present despite facing some challenges in his first few races with Ferrari. That's putting it mildly. Wolff is confident that once Hamilton fully aligns with the car, he would deliver stellar performances. Hamilton made a high-profile move to Ferrari on a multi-year deal at the end of the 2024 season, ending his successful 12-year stint with Mercedes. While he expressed some highlights such as a dominant victory from pole in the sprint at China, the British driver has also been candid about the issues he's encountered as he adapts to the SF25. When asked if he was surprised by Hamilton's challenging start at Ferrari, Wolff said, "I think we saw that magic in the sprint race in Shanghai. He was completely dominating that race. It's not like you have the magic in one race and then you suddenly lose the magic in the next one." He added, "I very much believe that it's still there. If he aligns all his performance contributors and feels he is in the right space and the car is to his liking, he will be stellar, I have no doubt. But I'm also not surprised he's had those road bumps." Just to pick out from that quote as well, the car is to his liking. I think, and this is something that a lot of people in comments have expressed, I think Hamilton needs a car to be a very particular way to be a dominating Formula 1 driver. I'm not just talking about winning the odd race here and there. I think when he has a car that suits him down to the ground, like he did at Mercedes for many, many years, he is unstoppable. He's different to Max Verstappen, in Max Verstappen can drive anything. He can drive the wheels off anything. And I think Hamilton might have been able to do that earlier in his career as well. That's debatable, but right now I don't think he can do that. I think he needs a car that's to his liking to do very well. But if he gets it, oh boy, nobody can stop him at that point. Wolff attributed the adjustment period to Hamilton's long tenure at Mercedes, saying, "He was with us for 12 years, the way of operating. He's been put in a Ferrari where his teammate Charles Leclerc has been for a long time. And his teammate clearly is one of the very good ones. So from the outside and speaking to him, it's a trajectory that any new driver needs to go through in a top team." Since Hamilton's departure, George Russell has been joined by rookie Kimi Antonelli at Mercedes, with the pair enjoying a solid start to the season, placing the team second in the Constructors' Championship. Wolff praised the new dynamic, highlighting Russell's growth as a senior driver and Antonelli's steady progress. His progress has been electric, it's not been steady. I mean, the man got 4th place in his first race in the wet in Australia. He's unbelievable. What a driver is Antonelli. But yeah, I was predicting, you can look at the videos if you want, guys. The visual evidence is there. I can't get rid of it. Well, I could, but I'm not going to. Why would I do that? Got to make the monetization money somehow, you know? Ad revenue's got to come from somewhere. But, you know, in all seriousness, I am surprised that Hamilton is struggling this much. But I also think that if you look at his performances overall, there's not been that many stinkers. I mean, Saudi was pretty bad. Miami, you could argue it was pretty good. I mean, he was up there with Charles Leclerc. Obviously not where he wants to be. 8th place. Come on, that's terrible. But it's not his fault. It's the car. Charles Leclerc was in 7th place. He was just in front of him. So clearly that car is just not good around there. Unless we forget, he got a podium in the sprint. Yeah, you could say, oh, he was lucky, he was fortuitous. Yeah, of course he was. But he took his chance, and anybody else was free to stop when he did. They chose not to. He did. And it worked out for him. Obviously got the sprint win in China as well. There have been some good performance points, but there's also been a lot of struggles too. But like Wolff said, you've been doing something for 12 years. 12 years, guys. What were you doing 12 years ago? Me? I was in secondary school. I was doing my A-levels. I wasn't even in uni. So that's a long time, right? To do something, be somewhere for a very long time. You're part of the furniture. You're part of a machine that is working as efficiently and as effectively as what Mercedes is. And then you got a Ferrari, which is different. And if you're being cynical, does not quite work on the same level as what Mercedes does. I'm not saying they do, I'm not saying they don't, but some people will say they definitely do. And we've seen elements of this. We've seen Hamilton saying to Carlos Sainz, who of course he replaced at Ferrari, being like, oh, they do things differently, their data there. The way they work is completely different, and Carlos Sainz is like, yeah, I know. Carlos Sainz at this point driving for literally half the team on the grid at this point, so he knows them all very well, and Ferrari clearly is the outlier compared to the likes of Renault, now Alpine of course, McLaren, Williams, Ferrari being the outlier I should say in that too. So yeah, your thoughts in the comments below guys. I want to hear what you have to say about this of course, but yeah, I'm not, when I'm thinking about it, taking a step away, getting off the Hamilton hype train, I'm not too surprised that he's struggling either. And I do back him to get on top of things. And I also think that the car's not there either. It's not just him. But man, it's going to be awkward this weekend if Hamilton is not doing well at Imola. If he's a long way behind Charles Leclerc. Because this is a racetrack where you got to qualify well. Overtaking is now impossible. He qualifies behind the Williamses, for example. If he qualifies outside the top 10, which he did in Miami, let's not forget about that, he might struggle to score points. I'm not saying he's going to be in trouble and he should be watching his back, but, you know, I don't think people will be too pleased over in Northern Italy about that. So I saw a headline come up yesterday evening regarding the good old swearing rules in Formula 1 and how they have again been loosened. They have been lessened in terms of the financial penalties that drivers will face if they of course swear during an official news conference. Now, this is not a good news story really. I mean, it's positive compared to what we had before, but overall MBS has made a problem and he's slowly, surely fixing it bit by bit. He should not be applauded for doing so. These rules should not be there in the first place. I want to make that absolutely abundantly clear before we go into what has changed here. This is not a good news story. It's better than it was before, but it's still not good in the world of motorsport because these FIA rules, of course, they affect more than just Formula 1. They also affect other FIA top-level motorsport series, such as the WRC, the World Rally Championship, and the WEC, the World Endurance Championship. But what has actually changed? Well, when it comes to the races themselves, nothing has changed. This new revision only affects so-called controlled events, such as pre-race press conferences and things like that. So now, instead of getting a €10,000 fine for swearing one of these controlled events, as it's called, you actually get a €5,000 fine, and you don't have to pay it, at least not immediately. You get a suspended sentence rather than that being a punishment outright. So if you make a mistake by swearing during an official press conference, then you get a €5,000 fine. Now, let me, again, just for the avoidance of any kind of doubt, I don't think they should get any kind of penalties for this. I don't think it's right. At least now they can actually make a mistake with this instead of being punished straight away. So suspended sentence basically means that you will have that €5,000 fine hanging over you, but it will not be applied unless you do something similar again. It's effectively like a reprimand. It only actually means something if you do something again further down the line. But as far as I am aware, nothing's changed in terms of you potentially getting a race ban and even harsher financial penalties. It's only these small misdemeanors, for lack of a better term, where it actually gets affected. But let's have a look at what MBS has said. What has our glorious leader, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the FIA president, said on this issue? Because this immediately screams to me of him being a bit afraid right now about someone else running for the FIA president, someone like Carlos Sainz Sr., somebody like Toto Wolff. It's been rumoured, it's not confirmed yet, but it's been very much rumoured that it's going to happen. I think he's trying to backtrack to try and get some good faith with the drivers here personally, but let's see what he said. He said, and I quote, "As a former rally driver," not a very good one, "I know firsthand that the range of emotions that are faced during competition. I have led an extensive collaborative review with the contributions from across the 7 FIA World Championships, FIA member clubs, and other motorsport organisations. The improvements the FIA has announced today to Appendix B will ensure we continue to promote the best sportsmanship in motorsport, while also giving the stewards effective guidelines to act against individuals who may bring the sport into disrepute. The FIA will always be committed to ensuring the motorsport is accessible for all our sporting family." So there we go. He's very much taking the high ground, being like, look, you know, I'm fixing these problems. Aren't I great? Well, no, mate, because you made the problems in the first place, didn't you? So, you know, it's a step in the right direction, but we've took about 50 steps back and maybe about 10 or so forward. So overall, we've not really made progress here, and this should not be celebrated until they eventually get rid of these stupid rules. But that is just my opinion, guys. I know there's going to be some edge cases, of course, where potentially someone could absolutely say the most horrific things and they face no punishment, but that would never happen anyway. They would face some repercussions if that was to happen. You don't need the draconian type swearing rules in there. I just think it is downright stupid. But that is my opinion, guys. I've spoke about this at length many times in the past. What's your thoughts, though? Let us know in the comments below. Good news, bad news, don't care, somewhere in between. I want to hear what you have to say. Qualifying for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix was on earlier today, guys, and as always here on the channel, I'm going to round up the 5 things that we learned, the 5 main highlights from the qualifying session at Imola earlier today. So let's dive in, guys. So we had a pair of nasty crashes in Q1, the first of these being for Yuki Tsunoda. Now, typically I said coming into this one that those top 10 positions during the Grand Prix are very much on lockdown at this point. The Red Bulls, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari and the Williams, they're going to qualify in the top 10 pretty much every single time, and of course have those places on lockdown. However, as usual, I was proven wrong pretty much straight away, as Yuki Tsunoda had a really nasty crash in Q1, and because of that he didn't take any further part in that. His teammate Max Verstappen had a very good day up in P2, more about him very soon. But yeah, disappointing for Tsunoda. He's going to have a really tough job to be able to get through the pack and get some points tomorrow, something that, you know, you kind of do expect from a second Red Bull driver, but we'll see what happens with him. The main thing is that he's okay. Franco Colapinto as well, he is thankfully okay. The second thing that we learned after, again, another pretty nasty crash, this time at the end of Q1, a red flag actually bringing out the end of this session. Now, Colapinto actually managed to get through to Q2. Not a bad effort in all honesty, particularly for his first qualifying session back in Formula 1. Of course, he didn't take any kind of part in Q2 because he was, you know, his car was destroyed in Q1. But yeah, again, thankfully he was all right. I think it was just after the Tamburello chicane where he crashed. So yeah, that'd bring up the end of the session. But he qualified in P15, which honestly, regardless of that crash, if you just kind of discount that crash, I don't think that's a bad effort at all. I really don't. However, a bad effort definitely has to go to Ferrari. I mean, I said in my free practice review that they were really struggling. I said they were not looking good. My God, was I right about this one. P11, P12, neither Ferrari into the top 10. That is downright disgraceful. The Tifosi are going to be fuming at that. Yeah, they'll probably get points from there, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. This is not the fault of the drivers. Clearly, there is an inherent problem when it comes to the pace of that car. The brakes, again, most likely being the big issue. That's what there was big issue on Friday anyway. Both Leclerc and Hamilton complaining over the radio about the lack of consistency and power from their brakes. And unfortunately, it did rear its ugly head once again at Ferrari's true home race. They are going to need a miracle tomorrow. So with 2 Ferraris out, with a Red Bull out, who was taking their places in the top 10 in Q3? Incredibly, Aston Martin. Aston Martin pulled off an absolute blinder here. Who would have thought that the medium tyres, which are supposed to be slower over one lap, would be quicker for them than the softs? I don't know what actually made them think this would work, but it did. Both Aston Martins into the top 10 and into the top 10 well as well. Fernando Alonso lines up P5. Lance Stroll, credit to him, P8. Really good day. Unbelievable. I don't know if some upgrades have really clicked with them. I don't know if it's just the tyres or what, but for whatever reason, on the yellow shod tyres, they absolutely are looking quick. And Alonso finally might get his first points this season. I am praying for him. I am absolutely praying for him. A driver of his caliber, a double world champion, not being able to score points in the first 6 rounds of the season. That is just downright terrible. Is it going to be 7? Well, on this evidence, no, it will not be. But they've got to make the finish. He's looked close to scoring points, but you know, while Liam Lawson made sure that didn't happen at the Miami Sprint. So we'll see what happens with him. So what happened at the top? Max Verstappen, I've already mentioned him. He was in second. Who was on pole? Piastri or Norris? Well, of course it was Piastri. Of course it was Piastri. Norris, my word, man. I'm sorry, I can't not describe him as a bottle job. He's absolutely bottled it again. P4. You could sort of forgive it if he was P3 with how good Verstappen has been over one lap, how tight those margins are. And again, nothing to take away from George Russell. He's having an incredible season, but he managed to outqualify. I think he outqualified him on the mediums. The mediums working well somehow on that Mercedes as well for some reason. I don't know how they're managing to do that. But yeah, Oscar Piastri took pole position, I think it was less than half a tenth of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. Really great battle between the two of them. They all be lining up on the front row. That could get spicy into turn one. Those two have had some pretty big confrontations so far this season. Piastri so far coming out on top, so I'll be looking for him to get the elbows out to try and stop Verstappen taking the lead around lap 1. But yeah, Norris, I mean, it's just not good enough, man. He said it is what it is, but what it is not good enough. Simple as that. So we'll see what happens. He's got a big job on to be able to actually recover. He needs to get at least P2 tomorrow. I think that'd be a good result in the circumstances. But man, you got to stop Piastri, because if he wins tomorrow, that is 4 wins in a row. And only one driver in the history of Formula One has ever scored 4 victories in a row and not gone on to win the championship in that year. And I believe that was Sir Lewis Hamilton back in 2016. But aside from that, it's never happened before. Now, Formula One seasons are longer than they've ever been before. There's a lot of different factors that could help out Norris when it comes to that stat. And it has happened before in the case of Lewis Hamilton. I know it did in 2016. I don't think it's happened since. But it's not looking good. It's not looking good. It really, you don't want to say the championship battle's over because the gap isn't that big. You could have a mechanical failure for Oscar Piastri, but right now the guy is on an absolute rampage. Someone described him in my comments recently as the Terminator, and I can see why. He is absolutely, clinically, coldly finishing out these races, just ticking them off one by one. He's the new Iceman, some people are saying. He's the new Professor, some people are saying. But you have your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I want to hear what you have to say. What were your main highlights of qualifying? Alonso getting P5. Fair play. Aston Martin really, really doing well this race. We'll see if they can hold it for a double points finish on Sunday. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, guys. See you very soon.